Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, you are. What's up, everybody? Welcome into First Take on this Memorial Day. Thank you so much for hanging with us. It is halftime. Molly Karam here with Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, and Will Kane. Stephen A., what's on your mind for hour number 2?
What's on my mind is my final take. It's going to be on Mr. Kevin Durant, who has gotten exactly what he wanted. Him and his crew. I'll explain on my final take.
Plus, we make our finals picks. Very interested to hear what Mr. Stephen A. Smith has to say. I know what I'm going to say. You'll find out what we both have to say. Second hour, First Take right now.
The whole underdog thing is funny to me because, yeah, at the end of the day, we are defending our title when we're trying to repeat, which is so hard to do. But, no, I mean, I think we will use it as fuel. We will use it as motivation. But as far as the idea of, like, playing into it, you know, it's tough for me to say that is the case. I mean, I don't feel like we're underdogs. I think we match up well with them, and I think they say the same about us.
So even though Vegas has the Warriors heavy favorites, Kevin Love is not buying it. Will Kane, back here with us. Good to see you. Stephen A., I want to start with you here. Is this a good thing that Kevin Love's saying this?
I love it personally. I mean, listen, some would say that it's not that wise because you got Draymond Green who's going up against him, and he's been like kryptonite for Kevin Love, at least if last year's NBA Finals are indicative of anything. But I'm very proud of what I've seen from Kevin Love. Kevin Love has had to be a third wheel. Chris Bosh can speak to the adjustment, the difficulty of making that adjustment. And Kevin Love has been phenomenal in these playoffs as far as I'm concerned. I've seen him explode for plus 30 on several occasions. I mean, he's shooting very, very well from three-point range. I'm just looking at his three-point shots here throughout the series against Boston. There's only twice actually that he shot less than 42.9% from three-point range. Actually, that was the lowest. Everything else, 44%, 53%, 60%, 66% from three-point range. His marksmanship is incredibly impressive. You're going to have to step out and guard him. As a result, that's going to pull Draymond Green away from the basket and leave Golden State to the devices of the JaVale McGee's or the Jaja Pajulias. And by the way, don't be surprised if Tristan Thompson can be a sleeper in this series, because who the hell is going to keep him off the board? JaVale McGee is a novice, and Jaja Pajulia is entirely too slow to stay with Tristan Thompson. So keep your mind on that, and keep your mind on Kevin Love in terms of his board activity as well. But the way that he has been shooting, understanding he is that third wheel, if Kevin Love continues to shoot this basketball the way that he has been shooting it, that can very well be the X factor that could propel Cleveland to another championship over the Golden State Warriors. So I like the fact that he has spoken up. He is not shying away from the challenge. He's not shying away from the responsibility that comes with that $113 million contract that he signed. He's a nice guy. He's a good person who I think has taken a lot of unnecessary heat. And it's nice to see him speak up for himself and his teammates, because it gives me the impression that he believes he's ready to back it up. And he will need to do that in order for the Cleveland Cavaliers to win this series.
This is great. This is great that Kevin Love is enunciating this exact thing. Because when you have the best player in the world on one team, I mean, just you go to the playground, you got the best player in the park on one team. If that guy also has a crew, you think that team has a chance to win. In fact, usually they're favored. And the history of the NBA has been that's been precisely the case, especially when the best player in the world is the best by the measure that LeBron is. You know, he's not a typical best player in the world. He's a little bit better than the next best guy. He's way better than everybody. And he's crew deep on this Cavs team, not just because of Kyrie and Kevin Love, but also because of, you know, the devil's in the details. All the way they revamped the bench. Darren Williams is your backup point guard now. The shooters everywhere LeBron can play with in the second unit, all that stuff. It's great that Kevin Love is enunciating this. And I think it also speaks to Kevin Love's self-image, the way he views himself. Let's not forget, there was a time when he was in Minnesota putting up those crazy numbers where he was considered by many smart basketball observers top 5 player maybe, a franchise player, one of the handful of players in the league worth way more than the max contract. And the question always with players who put up big numbers on bad or mediocre teams is, are those empty calorie numbers? Are those numbers empty calories, or are they meaningful? For example, you brought up Chris Bosh, Stephen A. He went from Toronto to Miami, and his numbers went away. But those weren't empty calorie numbers. He was just as great a player, at least, on Miami as he was in Toronto. The numbers reflected his greatness in Toronto, the wins in Miami, but he was the same guy. He was still a great player. Bosh is great. Kevin Love went to Cleveland, and it was like, well, that looked like an empty calorie player now that we see him on a great team. He's not a great player anymore. And he's come into his own little by little, grown more comfortable. Remember when LeBron said, don't try to fit out, just fit in, all these things? Kevin Love is saying, with this comment, he's saying, I'm a great player. It's not just that it's LeBron, the greatest, and Kyrie's another great player, and I'm just kind of one of the crew. There's a big three here. And when the best player in the world has two other great players plus a crew, we match up with anyone. So I like that he enunciated what he did, and I think it reflects well in terms of how Kevin Love views himself.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get much disagreement on this. I mean, what do we want? We want him to say, I don't really know if we can meet up with these guys. They're pretty tough over there. We want them to believe in themselves. You got to believe in yourself. You're going to win it. But I like it for another level, too. I like it for the angry, the insulted aspect of it. I mean, look, one of the formulas we've seen play out at this point in sports is us against the world works. Insult works. We've seen it from Nick Saban, him instilling that in his teams over and over. To some extent, Greg Popovich. And, of course, the Picasso of this technique, of this psychology, the locker room maestro of us against the world, Bill Belichick. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's true, right? It's ridiculous that the Patriots think somehow everyone is doubting them, but he makes them believe that. And so if the Warriors are, if the Cavs are insulted and they're like, you're making us the underdog, that's going to be hugely advantageous for the Cavs. They need to harness that. They need to use it. But I think this is interesting. On the other side of that equation, what are the Warriors thinking? Ryan Russillo has talked a lot about this. This is a team that choked away a 3-1 lead. And the first chance they got it, revenge, Christmas this past season, they lost to the Cavs again. So if the Warriors have an ounce of pride, they're doing the same thing. Everyone makes fun of us. We're a super team. We're not earning it. And we're the team that's choked away a 3-1 lead. So this sort of battle of the insulted ought to play out. And good for Kevin Love for A, feeling confident, and B, using this to his advantage.
Well, first of all, let me address.
And by the way, even the way the format, hold on real quick, Stephen A., even the way the format breaks up could be good for the Warriors here, because Cavs just steal one on the road. I mean, Warriors got to win those first two games. Cavs steal one on the road, and it's like, Warriors in trouble.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, even though we love what Kevin Love has had to say, and we have no problem with it, let's understand the potential detriment of his words.
What?
He has to go up against Draymond Green. And this is the same Kevin Love that you take away his Game 1 performance where he dropped 17. He scored 5 points in Game 2 last year's NBA Finals, didn't play in Game 3, came back, dropped 11 in Game 4, dropped 2 points in Game 5, 7 in Game 6, and 9 in Game 7. Even though he had 14 rebounds, was an absolute beast on the board, and that was definitely helpful.
But Stephen A., how does that fuel Draymond? What are you saying? That somehow Draymond will be like, yeah, you're right, Kevin, you're the underdog, and you should be, and here's why, the stats you just point out?
No. What I'm saying is that we love what we're hearing from Kevin Love because he sounds ready to step up. I'm saying to you, you're going to have to. And if you are Draymond and the rest of the crew, you're looking forward to going up against LeBron. You're going up against Kyrie. He may not have acquired the attention that normally you would think that somebody like him would require. He has been hitting three-point shots. You got to pay attention to him. But I'm just talking about somebody like Draymond Green who's looking for an excuse to try to mess with you mentally. Kevin Love showed, and at times in his career, in his young career in Cleveland, that you could get inside his head to some degree, which was why you had guys, at least the first go-round, that didn't have that much confidence in him. That's not the case anymore. They have loads of confidence in him, and he's earned it, and he deserves it. The flip side is Draymond is not just a master player. Draymond is the kind of guy that will try to play head games with you. He's got to be ready for it.
You don't want to get Draymond too fired up, though, because we know what can happen with that.
Well, no. Wait a minute. No, we don't know that. Remember, the technical foul, the flagrant foul that he got, It was the accumulation of those flagrant fouls that got him suspended. He doesn't have that problem in this year's playoffs. So if he gets, I don't know how many flagrants he's had in these playoffs, but I don't think he's on the verge of getting suspended, with some bogus call from the league office who implemented it retroactively.
The emotions are always a concern with him.
Let's get back to the Kevin Love of it all, by the way. If a couple of years ago, someone would have told you Draymond Green will be considered the better player than Kevin Love, let's say 3 years ago, 3 years from now, you'd laugh. No way, right? But the finals, in the crucible of playoff competition, you find out what's what. You find out who's actually excellent, not the empty calorie player I referred to before who can run up big numbers on a mediocre team, but a great player who can fit in to a championship team or even stand out on a championship team. That's what Draymond Green has turned into. That's what Kevin Love is trying to become. And with these kind of statements, if you're a Kevin Love fan, you have to be buoyed by these kind of statements because it sounds like he's up for the challenge. It sounds that way at least.
I just don't see, I hear you, Stephen A. I hear that Draymond feeds on everything. I don't see any downside in what Kevin's saying. I don't see any downside in Kevin saying, what, we're the underdogs, the defending champs? I don't see any downside in Kevin believing himself. I don't know how Draymond spins that and gets in Kevin's head. I don't know how.
Let me end it by saying this. Here's how Draymond spins it. Oh, so you guys said this is me imitating Draymond up here.
Yeah.
Oh, so you talking now. Oh, so you in the mix now. Oh, so you think you really do think you one of those big three, huh? Oh, because you did this against Boston and Toronto and Indiana before that. You don't know who you going up against. We're glad you opened your mouth. Welcome to the finals, Kevin Love. Let's go. Now I think Kevin Love's gonna be ready for that challenge. All I'm saying to you is that if you Draymond, that's how you look at stuff like that. Oh, so here you come. You've been hiding for a little while now. We didn't see you in last year's NBA Finals, really. But here you come now. Really? Let's go. Let's go. Oh, trust me, Draymond can find a way. Draymond is one of those dudes that's a master at this stuff. He can find a way to sit up there and find any little thing to incite himself to mess with you. And Kevin Love has to be ready for that. That's all I'm saying.
All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there because coming up, Kevin Durant has become the NBA's enemy #1 after joining the Super Team Warriors. Are these finals a must-win for the sake of his legacy? And stay right where you are because up next, we'll tackle LeBron.